As a manager within the school, one of your responsibilities is to find resources which you feel are going to be up to date, interesting, fun, but obviously resources where people learn.
The characters are really fun because when you click on them, like on the fish in the top right hand corner, it makes different faces and it's quite amusing.
Several colleagues who've joined the department recently spoke about having used this resource in their previous schools. I decided to give it a try since we're approaching the end of the year, looking at budgets for next year. And we've been using it for a month, and I have to say that my perception of it has changed quite considerably.
I was first introduced to Linguascope at a previous school, and I thought it was a great resource for the end of lessons especially, and sometimes for a starter to check for understanding if students have understood what you've done the previous lesson. And my colleagues, I think, have been very impressed.
Linguascope is a very useful tool to use with mixed ability classes because there are activities that are more challenging that will stretch the higher end ability of a class, but there are other activities which are accessible to the students who perhaps find languages a bit more difficult to learn.
When I came here, we started using the website, so at home I was able to practice it more, and now my French grades have gone up. I can use it whenever I want, it's not just lessons.
I think it is a very engaging website. It's very colourful, there's lots of noises, but it's not done in a patronising way, so I think even 15, 16-year-olds can go on Linguascope and do find it interesting. It's not something that it's just for 11, 12-year-olds.
I was using Linguascope for German, French and Spanish from around the age of 13 until my final year of high school, where I continue those three subjects, and it felt really easy to use.
Yeah, it's a lot different from normally just sort of sitting and writing out something. We tend to get a bit excited, shout at each other, no, that's not the right answer or something, telling each other what we think it is.
I also like using Linguascope because there are different levels to it, and I tend to use the beginners level with the younger children, or for revising key words in a particular topic, or for using very basic sentences, for example, daily routine, ma journée, and talking about je me lève, je me lave, so I wake up, I get up. And that's really useful to revise key basic structures.
Another excellent use which we have all made of Linguascope is to print off some of the worksheets and use those for homework purposes. Very often they fit very neatly into our schemes of work, and again, it's saved a lot of teacher time.
We found that it really is very reasonably priced, and I suppose that's one of the reasons why we've decided to buy it for our feeder schools as well. And you find that there are a lot of parents, particularly of primary school children, who are really keen to help their children get that little extra edge.
One of the other really useful aspects of Linguascope is the fact that it is constantly being revised and updated, and one of the most recent additions to the site is the word of the day, which is in 5 different languages, and the children absolutely love clicking on their icon and hearing what the new word of the day is.
Linguascope started as a school website where I developed some activities in French for my students. And I started receiving quite a lot of feedback and email from them asking me to develop other topics and then gradually other languages. So that's how the whole thing started.
I also find that Linguascope is quite a motivational tool for pupils of all ages. In the computer room lessons, they do tend to come in and immediately say, can we use Linguascope today?
I like on the Linguascope website that they have a resource for teachers called Linguashare, where you can access other people's, normally a PowerPoint presentation, resources that teachers have made on all sorts of different topics.
Sometimes teachers don't always have the time to research the authentic sites, the websites which you could use and which would obviously motivate children. And it's great that Linguascope does that work for you. So for example, you can find a direct link to radio stations, to TV stations, and to websites which will be of interest to children.
Another excellent aspect of Linguascope is the games creator aspect, where we can customise the games and activities with our own list of nouns that we find would be the most applicable to our students.
In the lessons, at the end of the lesson, if we have sort of 5–10 minutes left, often we'll do one of the more competitive games and we'll go into 2 groups, and it's fun because it helps tense revision and stuff, but
we're also interacting as a class.
Linguascope does offer another opportunity, not just to teach languages such as French, German and Spanish, but we have a student who's 11, he's Polish and came into the school with very little English, and Linguascope provided an excellent opportunity for him to actually build up his English vocabulary.
We're very fortunate really now that there are a lot of products around for languages, and often people will say to me, well, which ones do you recommend? And I have to say, really, that I really would go for Linguascope, and you're absolutely sure of having the fundamentals, the essentials that you need for all of the ages and all of the languages.